The first people to visit the moon since 1972 will be sent to the lunar surface by NASA's groundbreaking Artemis program, along with the first woman and first person of color. The Orion spacecraft's return to Earth on December 11th marked the completion of the mission's maiden phase, an uncrewed test flight known as Artemis 1. While the program will break many records, it has already accomplished the most powerful rocket launch to date. It will also pay a few tributes to the past. Welcome back, everyone. Bringing commonplace items into space adds value to them, which astronauts frequently do. Each crew member may bring a personal preference kit, including important items. These collections typically contain snapshots of the family and individual keepsakes. Some astronauts display flags from their alma maters. To provide you with some space trivia to share the next time a rocket launches or an astronaut returns from a mission, we searched through dozens of historical news reports to locate the fascinating items launched into space and offer you their backstories. Here are some amusing artifacts that have been launched into space. Dinosaur bones and eggshell. Dinosaurs and space have a troubled past. After all, it was a huge space rock that wiped out the ancient reptiles of the prehistoric era. However, a preserved fragment of one species heralded a new era of space-dwelling dinosaurs in 1985. Astronaut Loren Acton retrieved a bone and a piece of eggshell from a nesting location of a Maiasaura piblosorum, the good mother lizard, on an 8-day NASA mission known as Space Lab 2. The species, which lasted for almost 76 million years, raised its young in sizable nesting colonies. Acton's home state of Montana is where the fossils were discovered, and after Maiasaura took flight, the state named the dinosaur its official dinosaur. Then, in 1998, a complete dinosaur skull was sent to the now-defunct Mir space station, which was first run by the Soviet Union and then by Russia. The Coelophysis skull, a quick hunter who walked on two legs 214 million years ago, spent around 9 days in space. The 8-inch skull was given to NASA for its voyage by retired astronaut Jay Apt, now the director of Pittsburgh's Carnegie Museum of Natural History. Amelia Earhart's wristwatch. The renowned flyer Amelia Earhart's watch made a historic second trip across the Atlantic Ocean 82 years to the day after its maiden crossing. Earhart wore the wristwatch she later donated to H. Gordon Selfridge Jr., the department store proprietor, when she became the first woman to fly solo over the Atlantic. She began her attempt to fly around the globe in 1937. She would have been the first ever to accomplish such a mind-boggling feat. She and her navigator, Fred Noonan, vanished on one of the last stretches of their expedition between Lae, New Guinea and the U.S. jurisdiction of Howland Island. During her lifetime, Earhart was a founding member and the first president of the 99s, an exclusive group of female pilots. After Earhart's passing, Selfridge gave the watch to the 99s. Later, organization president Joan Kerwin purchased it at auction. Shipping tag from the Jamestown colony. In Jamestown, Virginia, archaeologists were excavating a well from the colonial era when they discovered a treasure mine of antiquities. Since the well water protected metal from rust or corrosion, the artifacts had been maintained for 400 years. This cargo tag was the first thing archaeologists discovered that listed Jamestown as an address, along with other discoveries, including a halberd, a pistol, and a pair of leather shoes. The Jamestown tag is believed to have been part of a container of goods formerly kept in England. NASA sent the tag to the ISS on the space shuttle Atlantis in 2007 to commemorate the 400th anniversary of the arrival of English colonists in Jamestown. The relic orbited Earth for 4 months and traveled 5.8 million nautical miles. A Nobel Prize replica. The universe is still partially filled with radiation from the Big Bang. The cosmic microwave background, sometimes known as CMB, was unintentionally found in the 1960s. John Mather and George Smoot, cosmologists, measured this event in 1989 using a satellite. For this work, they were awarded 2006 Nobel Prizes. Currently a senior project scientist for NASA's James Webb Space Telescope program, Mather received 3 copies of his Nobel Prize, which is given to each recipient. One traveled to the National Air and Space Museum, while the other visited the space agency. In memory of Mather, his co-worker and fellow astronaut Piers Sellers arranged for the museum's duplicate to fly on one of the final space shuttle missions. Sellers brought the award back to Earth and delivered it to Mather and the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., while carrying it in his pocket. The Mercury Dime Roll. Astronaut Gus Grissom had a roll of Mercury dime coins in his pocket while on the second mission of NASA's Project Mercury, which was the organization's first human spaceflight program. The public mistakenly identified the winged-hatted Liberty on the coins as the Roman god Mercury, giving the coinage its moniker. Mercury dimes were no longer in use when Grissom, the second American to travel to space, did so in 1961. Mercury dimes had been taken out of circulation for 16 years. These now rare 10-cent coins were originally issued in 1916 and were produced until 1945. They were phased out that year in favor of contemporary dimes featuring the portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The first space traveler took the dimes with him so he could give them to others when he returned. According to Waitcamp, Grissom's decision to take these coins into space demonstrates that, from the very first flights, people were thinking about manufacturing space-flown artifacts. However, as Grissom splashed down upon his return to Earth, his spacecraft, the Liberty Bell 7, sank in the Atlantic Ocean. A 1999 expedition discovered the capsule and the Mercury dimes inside after it had been on the ocean floor for 38 years after the astronaut nearly drowned. The Olympic Torch. Olympic torches traditionally make a long journey from Olympia, Greece, to the venue of the Games. However, some torches have traveled considerably further. The Columbia Space Shuttle carried a torch for the Olympics before the 1996 Summer Games in Atlanta. Before the Sydney Summer Games, 4 years later, a second torch was carried into orbit by the shuttle Atlantis. But until 2013, no torch was taken outside of a spacecraft. Russian cosmonauts Oleg Kotov and Sergei Ryazansky carried the torch during a spacewalk outside the International Space Station to commemorate the Sochi Winter Games. Before the Games, the famous beacon traveled 40,000 miles on a relay after returning to Earth. A piece of dirt from the New York Yankees pitcher's mound was carried into space by astronaut Garrett Reisman on a Space Shuttle Endeavour mission in 2008. He sent a ceremonial first pitch via video from the ISS and brought a hat with the owner of the team's autograph on it. Not to be outdone, the 2009 mission of the Space Shuttle Atlantis to the Hubble Space Telescope included the former home plate of the New York Mets. September 11th artifacts. The American flag is used to identify the shield. NASA has launched a few major items salvaged from the disaster's debris as a memorial to the victims of the September 11, 2001 attacks. An American flag found from Ground Zero of the World Trade Center was tattered and transported to orbit by the Space Shuttle Endeavour in December 2001. Other remnants from Ground Zero are still in orbit today. Metal salvaged from the wreckage was used in parts of the Mars rovers Spirit and Opportunity, launched in 2003, and started exploring the Red Planet in 2004. An instrument for digging samples of the Martian soil is mounted on each rover. Aluminum from the demolished World Trade Center buildings was used to make the cable shields for these instruments, and American flags were used to identify the materials. Other memorial objects, such as a facsimile of a teddy bear that belonged to a Holocaust survivor and a medal of a World War II pilot who died in battle, have been carried into space by astronauts. That is all for this video. We will be back soon with another informative video. Don't forget to like and share this video. Until next time!